The distributive property is when we remove brackets from expressions. And the distributive property basically allows us to count up groups properly. So when we put things in brackets, we're putting them into groups. And when we have numbers outside those brackets, we need to count those groups properly. And we need to do this by distributing. So when we take a look at 3 bracket 5 plus 2, that there's an implied times in here. So remember that if there's no sign in here, this means multiplication. Okay, that's the implied operation in math. So that means when we talk about times, we're talking about groupings or groups of things. So we have 3 groups of 5 plus 2. Well, what does that mean? It means that we have three groups of 5 and 3 groups of 2. So what we can do then is do 3 times 5, and then we're going to count or add up 3 times 2. And so that's going to give us 15 plus 6, which is equal to 21. Okay, so that's what we have here. We have 3 groups of 7 and 3 groups of 5. So three groups of 7, if we put it together using BEDMAS, that gives us 21. This is what we know is the right answer. We also have 3 groups of 5, which is 15, plus 3 groups of 2 is 6, and that also counts up 21. So notice that we're counting up the same number. That means that this distribution is a way we can count groupings in brackets like this. Now, normally we would just use BEDMAS and do 5 plus 2, but when we have algebra, we can't add a and 2 together. So this is a no-no. We can't put these together because they're not like terms. We cannot say that we have 2a. That's a big no-no. But what we can say is that 3 times 3 in the bracket means, again, that means times in between when there's no sign in between there. So we have 3 groups of a plus 2. So how can we write this 3 bracket a plus 2 without the brackets? Well, we need to count what's inside the brackets properly. So to do this, what we're going to do is use something called distribution to remove the brackets. So we're going to apply the grouping of 3, or times 3 groups of a, and we use this distribution. So we have 3 a's. We also have 3 groups of 2, or 3 times 2. And since those are not like terms, we're going to count them separately with a plus. 3 groups of 2 gives me 6. So this distribution is whenever we have a bracket, we're going to distribute this 3 onto those different terms. And we could distribute across pluses like this, okay, because the plus is counting things separately. So again, this is really about counting in groups. So I have 2 groups of x plus y. So there's a times in here. So what I need to do is count the groups of x's. So 2 groups of x, that gives me 2 x's. And separately, I'm going to count the y's. So plus, because they're different, I'm going to count them separately. I'm going to then do 2 groups of y, or 2 times y, which is 2y. We could do the same thing here. There's a bracket here, so that means times. So we're going to distribute the 2 onto here. So 2 groups of 2x's. Well, 2 groups of 2x's means 2 times 2 is 4x's. So and remember, it's not 2 times 2 and 2 times x, it's just 2 groups of whatever we're counting here. The plus tells us we're counting something different. So the plus means we're counting the 3's differently. So we had 2 groups of 2, and then we're going to do 2 groups of 3. So we end up with 3 times 2, which I'm just going to write as 6 ones. And now we've gotten rid of the brackets, and we can count our like terms. So we have 6 ones and 12 ones, 4 x's. We have to count the x's separately. So we have 4 x's plus 6 plus 12 equals 18. Notice that the equals is implied going down. Be careful with this because it says 5 plus 3, but it doesn't, we can't do the 5 plus 3 first. This is a big no-no because we have to do groupings first. So bedmass means we do multiplication, and there's a times in here, which means that, so times in here, which means that we have to do the brackets first. So this is why it's important to kind of make sure that we are keeping things in order. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to work down because it's easier to keep track of things. I'm not going to do the plus 5 first. So I need to make sure I keep track of that. When we're doing algebra, it's important to keep track of what you're not doing. I am doing 3 times x. So I get 3x. It's a minus, so I'm counting the 8 separately. And I'm going to do 3 times 8. That's going to give me 24. Now that I've gotten rid of the brackets, I can look for like terms. And my like terms are, well, I have 3 x's. And then I have 5 ones and take away 24. That means I have more takeaways. So I'm going to end up with a minus 19. So 5 minus 24 is minus 19 or negative 19. So this represents my counting when I've grouped together all my like terms properly.